Hello, welcome back to RetroBreak. You might remember a few months ago I did an interview with Quang from AsobiTech about his upcoming Game Boy Homebrew release called Super Jetpak DX. Well, here it is, I've finally got it in my hands. This is the final version of the game, and let me just tell you straight away, it's fantastic and it was definitely worth the wait. So I'm really excited to get into it in this video. I'm going to break it down into 3 different sections. We're going to first start with a little bit of history about the game and the developer and how this release came to be, and then I'm going to show you everything there is to know about the game itself. And I've got a lot of different Game Boy systems down there because I'm going to try it on all of them and see how it plays, including on the SNES and the GameCube as well. So there's all that to look forward to, and then finally I'm going to do a complete unboxing, show you the amazing packaging, the amazing manual, and the amazing cartridge as well. So there's loads to look forward to in this video. Let's get started. So Jetpak was first released all the way back in 1983 on the ZX Spectrum by a company called Ultimate Play the Game, and they went on to become the company that we all know and love today called Rare. And like I mentioned in the introduction, I spoke to my friend Quang from AsobiTech a few weeks ago and asked him a few questions as to why he decided to recreate this game for the original Game Boy. I had a lot of fun talking to him and it was a really interesting discussion, so if you enjoy this clip here and want to see the entire thing, I will put a link in the description so you can go and check it out.
The idea between Jetpak was, it was actually the first Spectrum game I ever played. It was at a friend of the family's house. They had Spectrum, and he had Jetpak, and it's the first Spectrum game I played, and it just blew me away and captivated me how smooth, how arcade-like it was on his home computer. And I fell in love with the game since then. One
of the very first games that he worked on was a recreation of Jetpak for the Game Boy. I've actually got the original file here from 1999, and you'll see a bit later on just how different this new release is compared to this one. And one of the questions I decided to ask him in this interview is why did he decide to bring back one of his original Game Boy releases and redo it for 2020? Here's what he had to say about that.
So I just kind of wanted a game with my name in the credits, and I felt Jetpak DX could have been a lot more because obviously it was my first game. I didn't know much about the system, and I thought I could improve on it and make it what it should have been back then. So making it come full circle, I think by re-releasing it now, it means it makes 19-year-old Quang a lot more happier. He can have a game with his name, in it.
Yeah, and a full box and instruction manual and everything to go along with it.
Oh, for sure. I had to do this correctly. There's no way I could just release this as a ROM. As a big collector myself, there's something to be said about having the box and the manual to go with it.
So you might remember at the start of the year I did a video about this game called Tobu DX, and I think it is really fitting that at the end of the year I'm coming back to do another video about another arcade style Game Boy homebrew game. It's been such an incredible year for the Game Boy, and this is a really nice way to end the year, so let's see what it's all about. But before we do, can we just appreciate for a minute the fact that Quang actually personalised every single copy of this game on the first round of pre-orders. That was an immense task for him, and I really do appreciate it because it just blew my mind when I saw my name and RetroBreak on the title screen for the game. I just had a huge smile on my face. I think that is something really cool, and it really got me pumped to play the final game. And before you even start the game, the first thing you'll realise is just how incredible the music is. There's only a few tracks, but I have to say they're some of the best that I've ever heard out of the Game Boy system. Now in terms of options, there's a few different control options in the menu, and then there's 3 different difficulty settings. Each one of the difficulty settings changes the amount of enemies that are on the screen. For this video I'll be playing through it on the difficulty, which is the hardest one there is. That means that there's always 4 enemies flying around at once. And if you've ever played Jetpak before, you'll know exactly what to do as soon as you start playing. It's an incredibly simple game, but just like a lot of good arcade games, it's the simplicity that really makes this game stand out. You need to first pick up all the different parts of the spaceship in order to build it, and then you need to fly around after that and collect all of the fuel in order to fuel it up and be able to fly out of the stage before you land on the next one and do it all over again. It's a perfectly simple concept and it plays extremely well, and you can tell just how much care and attention has gone into polishing this game to make it the absolute best that it could possibly be on the system. The graphics look really nice, the controls are incredibly responsive and incredibly easy to use. I love the fact that he changed it so you can press up to go up, instead of holding down the A button to use the boosters. I feel like that was a really good change. And another great thing is the fact that it looks and plays really good no matter what Game Boy you decide to play on. As you can see here, playing it on the original Game Boy, or any of the black and white Game Boys for that matter, you're first greeted with a new option which allows you to choose do you want to play it in light mode or dark mode. These are two different screen modes which are made basically to make the game easier to see on these older systems. Both of the options actually look really good as long as you manage to dial in the contrast settings properly, which is quite difficult on the older systems, but if you dial it in just right and if you've got a good light like I have here, then it's perfectly playable. Although these days I've got a few modded Game Boys which I like to use instead, but of course if you've only got one of the originals, as you can see from this footage, it's still perfectly playable. And this Game Boy Light here, I actually bought this off Quang at one of the many gaming events that I went to last year, and I really do miss them. This year there hasn't been any gaming events thanks to COVID, so fingers crossed next year we can go back to some gaming markets and I can meet up with him once more. And of course if you play it on the Super Game Boy on the SNES, it also gives you the same options due to the fact that the Super Game Boy doesn't have any colour, although you can add your own colour if you want, but it's not quite the same. And then of course if you play it in the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Advance SP, you'll get the full colour game experience. And no matter what system you play it on, it plays really well, and like I said, as long as you can dial the contrast in on the older systems, it's still perfectly playable. And I honestly think if this was released back in the day, it would have gone down as being one of the best games for the system at the time, and I can't really give much higher praise than that. So as you might have seen throughout the gameplay that's been playing in the background to this video, there's a variety of different enemies and different power-ups that you find throughout the game. There's 16 different levels, and throughout those levels you get different combinations of enemies and ship types. Each of the enemies moves and attacks in slightly different ways, which makes each level really unique to play. You might have also noticed these pink squares falling down from the top of the screen. These are different power-ups, and there's 6 different types. There's unfortunately one that just kills you straight away as well, which is fine when you're playing it on the big screen or on a Game Boy Color, but when you're playing it on one of the original systems, it can be quite difficult to make out the different graphics which represent the different power-ups. There's a spread shot which allows you to shoot straight ahead and up diagonally as well, which makes it a lot easier to take out the enemies. There's a back shot which lets you fire forwards and backwards at the same time. There's a drone, which is probably my favourite of the power-ups. This one gives you a little ball that flies around and it can also damage the enemies without you touching them. There's a shield, which is really useful, and there's confusion as well, which reverses the controls. At first I didn't really know what was going on. I thought the question mark just meant it was random, and then I started walking in the opposite direction, so I've kind of learnt to avoid that one and the death symbol for now, but the other power-ups are all really useful, and they make it a lot easier to get through the different stages. There's also a few bonus items that drop down in the levels as well, and each one of these different bonuses gives you a different amount of points, so it's always worth picking those up before you get in the ship and fly off to the next stage. Another really neat little attention to detail that I really love is the fact that when you move up to the top of the screen, the bar at the top actually moves out of the way so you can see the entire screen. I just think that's a really nice little addition, and it just makes playing the game that much more enjoyable. And talking about the bar at the top, that actually shows you your score, how much fuel you've got left to collect in order to fill up the ship, the amount of lives that you've got, and the energy for your laser as well. So that's it for how the game works and how it plays on all the different systems. So now let's take a look at the amazing packaging that this game came in. And just as I mentioned in the intro, the packaging is absolutely fantastic, and it's really close to what an official release would have been like back in the day. I really love that they replaced the Nintendo logo with the word Homebrew. I think that's a really nice little attention to detail. There's also a QR code on the back there, so if you want to pause the video and scan that, you can actually go to the website right now and pre-order the game up until the 31st of January 2021, and they'll be shipping out at the start of March. So if you missed out on the game in the first round, don't worry, because there is still a chance to get it. As you just saw there as well, the cartridge looks absolutely stunning. I love the fact that it says UKV on the side. Being a UKV Game Boy collector, that is something really cool to have. I also really appreciate the fact that he used a black cartridge, which when the Game Boy was around actually indicated that the game was compatible with the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, so that's another really nice little attention to detail there. And now we're taking a look at the manual, put together by the amazing Trista Bytes, and you can tell just how much love was put into this. Overall, it is a really, really nice package, and I could not be happier with the final product. So a huge well done to everyone involved. So thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Super Jetpak DX for the Game Boy. Like I said, there is a second round of pre-orders up right now, so I'll put a link in the description so you can go and check out the website. And if you missed it the first time around, fingers crossed you can manage to get a copy now. That's it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed it, please consider checking out Patreon. Leave a comment down below, let me know if you've played this game, let me know if you picked it up on the first round, or let me know if you're planning to order it for the second round. That's it for now though guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week for the next episode. Goodbye!